Hi there. So it's not too uncommon to find problems that pertain to the distance between things. So how do we deal with this in mathematics? Well, in mathematics we have something that addresses this. It's called absolute value. Absolute value is a way of measuring distance on the number line. So let's talk about how to solve equations involving absolute values. So let me give you a very simple equation. All right, so the simple equation is going to be absolute value of x equals 2. Very simple. Now, if you remember from the other video when we talked about absolute value inequalities, we mentioned that the absolute value is the distance that a number is from 0. So what we're saying is the distance that x is from 0 is 2. So if we look down at the picture down here, we just ask ourselves, what numbers are exactly 2 units from 0? Well, if I go 2 units to the right, I get to the number 2. And if I go 2 units to the left, I get to the number -2. So both of those numbers are 2 units from 0, and so those are both my solutions. There's 2 solutions here. And so what this tells us is that x is equal to -2 or x is equal to +2. Those are my answers. Okay, so that's how we solve an inequality like that. Now we can generalize this. Let's imagine what would happen if we put a different number on the right-hand side, like a number b. What would that say? Well, if I ever have an equation of this form, that means that x is equal to -b or x equals +b. Now we have to be a little bit careful about this. Is this always true? Can any number work for b? Well, we have to be a little bit careful here, right? Because the absolute value can't be a negative number, right? You can't get negative distances, and you can't take the absolute value of number and get something negative. So this only works when b is positive. Okay, so when b is positive, this is the answer. So let me just emphasize that. So for b greater than 0. Okay, we're always thinking of b greater than 0. If b is equal to 0 or less than 0, I'll let you think about what'll happen. It'll be a little bit different than this. I think you can figure out what's going to happen with the solutions, or even if there are any solutions, right? But for the case where b is positive, this is what we get. Okay, so let's go and look at another one here. Let's look at the equation. Let's make it a little bit more interesting. X minus 2 equals 4. Okay. Now, what did we say? We said that if the absolute value of something equals, let me circle it here. The absolute value of something is a number, then that something is negative or positive that number, right? Provided that number is positive. So, okay, 4 is positive, so we're good there. But look at what we have in place of x. In place of x, well, we had an x up here. Down here, we have an x minus 2. So I'll just put an x minus 2 in place of x here and here. That's a funky looking pen. I don't know what that's doing. It's making some kind of weird magically dashed line there. I'll keep that in mind next time I choose it. So I'll just use that same statement. So we know that x minus 2, which is taking the place of x as we had it before, is equal to -4, or, and I'm going to have to get out of the way here. Let me just scroll the screen down a little bit. We'll go over here. A little bit more. Sorry, I can't see my own face on here unless I switch views, so it's hard for me to see when I'm getting in the way. Or x minus 2 is equal to +4. Okay. Notice we use the same thing as before, but in place of x, we have an x minus 2. Okay, so we have 2 different equations, which we can now solve. How do we solve these? Well, let's look at the first one. I would solve this by adding 2 to both sides. which gives me x equals -2. Or, if I solve the second equation, I would add 2 to both sides. Come on, pen. I have to get a new pen. This one's not working so hot. X equals 6. Tell CUNY to give me a raise so I can afford a new pen. So there we go. We get 2 answers, right? Let's go ahead and plot these on a number line. Oops. Hi there, number line. Come with me. Come on down here. You brought a friend. Let's get rid of your friend. Sorry. It's a private party. So x equals -2, right over there, and x equals 6, right over here, right? So those are our answers. Now I want to make an observation here. Let me scoot this, gotta get used to this. Scoot this down a little bit. Come on, guys. Look at what we got. We got 2 numbers, and they are both equally distant from what number? Think about that. Pause the video. What number are those 2 things that I marked equidistant from? Right, they're both equally as far away from 2. They're both exactly 4 units away from 2. You see, if I go, if I start at 2 here and go 4 units to the right, I get to 6. And if I go 4 units to the left, I get to -2. So that's an interesting observation, and that's a very useful one here. Whenever we have an equation of the form x minus a equals b, and b is a positive number, that means that x is b units away from a, and there's two answers that satisfy that. So x is b units away from a. You see, those 2 answers, -2 and 6, are exactly 4 units away from 2. Okay, so that's how we can interpret that. Let me do another one here, and instead of putting a minus, let's put a plus. X plus 3 is equal to 1. How about that? Now let's interpret it the same way we just did. This means that x is 1 unit. X is 1 unit away from what? Well, if we look above, the thing that it was b units away from was a, right? So what was a? A is the thing that we're subtracting over here. What are we subtracting here? What number that when you subtract it is the same as adding 3? Think about that. Pause the video. Now, the number is -3, right? If you subtract -3, that's the same thing as adding +3, right? So that's our answer here. X is 1 unit away from -3. So when you see a plus sign over there, it's actually the distance away from the negative answer. Okay, so very quickly I could sketch this on the number line. And so I'm 1 unit away from -3, so that means I'm here or here, right? So I can see there's 2 answers, x equals -4 or x equals 2, right? Whoa, hello. Come on, guy. Come on, technical difficulties all over the place today. Okay, so x equals -4 or x equals -2 is our answer. Now, you could have done this algebraically as well, and I invite you to go do that on your own. We could have gone through these steps over here, this stuff, right? Oh, that magical pen again. We could have gone through that, right? And done it that way as well. But I think it's a little bit quicker to do it this way, and that's the approach that we took in this problem. But either way works, okay? And I'm going to do one more problem that's a little bit more complicated. To tie all this together, let's look at the equation 3 times x plus 1 minus 4 equals 5. Okay, here's our equation that we want to solve. How would we solve this? Well, notice that what we've talked about all had to do with having the absolute value all by itself on the left-hand side. So let's do that, all right? Let's get the absolute value all by itself. There's no reason to expect that what we were saying would work if the absolute value is not all by itself. So let's make sure we get into the same form. That's the only way we can be sure that that stuff's going to work. And in fact, it is the only way it's going to work. So let's add 4 to both sides. Get that 4 out of there. When isolating something, it's always better to add first rather than divide by the 3. Get rid of the addition and subtraction first. It's just easier that way. Otherwise, you get fractions. Go ahead and try it. You'll see. And then what do I want to do? I want to divide both sides by 3. Okay. So 3 divided by 3, that nukes the 3. So I get x plus 1 in absolute value. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Okay, well, I got it. I got the absolute value all by itself. So what do I do next? Well, I use what we said before. I could do it 2 ways. So the first way we did it was to say that x plus 1 equals negative 3, or x plus 1 equals positive 3. But this is approach 1, all right? And we'll just solve these equations individually. Minus 1 from both sides. Do that on both of them. All right, and what do we get here? We get x equals negative 4. Here we get x equals 2. And there's our answers, right? That's our solution. The other approach that we talked about was to understand that this means the distance that x is from blank is blank. Go look in the video ahead, see if you can see what I'm talking about. Go look at a video in the past. You can rewind. Fill in those blanks. The distance between x and blank is equal to blank. And the answer is, so this is the second approach. In other words, x is 3 units away from negative 1. Right? Because we're adding 1, so it becomes a negative 1. That's what we're subtracting, a negative 1 to get a plus 1. X is 3 units away from negative 1. The distance between x and negative 1 is 3. All right? So I could draw this on the number line. Okay, so let's go ahead and put it. So let's go to negative 1 here, and we'll go 3 units to the right, and that puts us here. 3 units to the left puts us here. And what's that? Notice that that's exactly the same answers we had before, negative 4 and 2. So 2 different approaches to solve these. Think about it geometrically, or you can just do it algebraically. The first way was algebraic, the second way was geometric. Okay, so that's absolute value equations. And so that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.